to the Prince Magnum channel, where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to Do-It-Yourself Budget Hot Rodding. Now, for those of you that are familiar with this baby right here, you already know who she is. Many of our Lady Mavericks are awfully familiar with this car because she's been helping with the entire Lady Mavericks Unite series. But this here is Project Lena, for those of you who don't know. This is a 2003 Pontiac Grand Am GT that's filling the role of for Project Spirit until we're ready to put her back on the road. But in the meantime, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle of a project car. Most of you all, that have been doing hot rodding for years are awfully familiar that, this is just a giant puzzle, if you will, all right? Well, so far, we have replaced quite a bit of stuff on the old girl. The alternator. We've replaced the power steering pump. We've had an oxygen sensor replaced. The radiator, my goodness, we've replaced a lot. Shoot, even underneath the radiator, we had to replace that kind of like a little cross member underneath. And now that that is done, it's come, mechanically speaking, Project Lena is getting a whole lot better. But there was a problem. For suspension, tie rods in particular. We've got a few other things that also have to be replaced on said suspension, but the big one was tie rods. Now, for those of you who are fairly new to the world of hot rodding, this is a tie rod. Or, in this case, what's left of one. Now, really quick before we dive in super far, I want to take a moment and remember the Prince Magnum channel is not sponsored by any of these entities, but I want to take a moment and thank the folks from CarParts.com for selling us brand new ones, brand new tie rods, because we had both sides replaced. And I want to take a moment and thank Torque Diesel and Auto right here in Bonne Terre, Missouri for doing the work to Project Lena. Now that I've said that and gotten some special shout outs out of the way, let's talk about these. For a while I've noticed that Lena's suspension has been sloppy, and y'all know that, this is not a high-end performance engine, but it has, from the factory, the performance package, and we know specifically, in particular, the Ram Air Scoop, and along with a mild performance exhaust that she came with from the factory. Well, if we want to be able to get out there and make the videos that we do where we're zipping through turns and everything like that, suspension's important. Now, for our beginning hot rodders, one of the things that we need to talk about when selecting, parts like this in, I guess you could say, in your project car, like, say like right here, and this will even pertain to cars like Project Spirit. If you plan to drive these every day, these are some things that you need to look for. First and foremost, for our, even if you're just replacing the parts on your daily driver, this is an absolute must, okay? Notice right here, this is actually the factory one that Project Lena came with, okay? I know that because right here, this is sealed up. On aftermarket ones, there will be a little fitting right here at the bottom that sometimes you got to put in yourself, but there will be a hole and you put a fitting in and you can pump grease into it. Well, the factory ones won't have that, which is one of the reasons why this failed, because from the factory, they want you to replace this. It might take a while, but they want you to replace it, and more in particular, they want you to replace it with the ones from the factory. This is a bad design. And they started this BS all the way back in, believe it or not, the 1970s. So this is one of the reasons why this failed. Now, on vehicles that are commuted long distances, this will fail a whole lot sooner than this did. So say like I live here in Bonne Terre, driving to St. Louis for a job. I'm driving about an hour and a half away from here, depending on exactly where in St. Louis I'll be going. But a guesstimated hour and a half. This will fail me within a few years, and then I'd have to have it replaced with the factory one because warranties and stuff like that. So this is a bad design. All right. Now, along with that, we need to talk about the fact that, you know, we are customizing this car for car shows. So the next question comes in. Obviously, we want something with a good grease fitting so we can pump grease back into it and make the part last a lot longer, which is just general routine maintenance. The next thing that we need to talk about, are we going to stay with ones that use a rubber boot, or are we going to look at polyurethane, or if you're familiar with the company called Performance Suspension Technology, PST, not P, anyhow, PST, you know, you have polygraphite. Well, here's the quandary that we're in, okay? Now, if you plan to race the car, or you don't plan to drive it that much, I definitely suggest, you know, polyurethane or polygraphite from PST. But if you plan to drive your project car daily, and I mean daily, stick with rubber, okay? And this will make sense soon enough. I've had vehicles that have had a little of both, you know, have both, and I've found that the polyurethane and polygraphite, while amazing for daily drivers, is just way too stiff. You'll hit a bump, and I mean, it's like riding in a log truck. Yeah, it does an amazing job through the corners and everything else. If you're on a back road and things like that, it handles amazing. But for a racer, you're not looking for that comfort. If you're going to be daily driving it, this is going to be the way to go, just not this one right here. And Project Lena is meant to be daily driven, which means that this particular, you know, the rubber is just fine, you know, for a daily driver. So those are the things that you're looking for when doing an update like this. Now, really quick, I know some of you are saying, well, this is do-it-yourself budget hot rodding. And I already hear some of you in the comments section, you didn't change this yourself. Well, ironically enough, I'm glad that we didn't try. Because when we got to the shop, they ended up having to use an oxyacetylene torch because this had been on there so long. 19 years, this is the original factory. So they had to actually heat this up with a torch just to break it loose. So because of that, I'm going to tell y'all right now, do-it-yourself budget hot rodding. I did the research on where I was getting the parts from. I was the one that selected the shop. Even though I didn't do the work, I did all the footwork up to the point of actually turning the wrenches. And which, again, considering the situation, I live in an apartment complex. It's not like I've got an oxyacetylene torch kind of laying around, if you catch my drift. So this required heat to actually break this loose. Folks, do-it-yourself budget hot rodding isn't always, you know, sometimes we're in positions, even though we're do-it-yourselfers, even though, you know, we love the DIY, we're sometimes still always going to be in a position where there's something that we can't do. Whether we don't have the tools or we don't have the know-how, it's okay to turn it over to a shop so we don't tear up our baby, okay? Because if I had done that and gotten all the way in there, there may have been an excellent chance that I've still run into the same exact problem and would have probably had to call a tow truck and had our baby hauled over to Torque Diesel and Auto, and then we'd have had to pay extra money. So so there is sometimes what you're also going to have to talk about. Now, for those of you who are wondering, how's she handled now, Prince Magnum? Well, here's a little bit of video footage from the drive home. awesome ride home. She handles 1,000 times better through town. And I know from the way she feels, there's a lot more response than I was going to get out of this. Oh my God, yeah, that is, yeah. So Lena does handle a lot better, and with the extra added grease fittings now at the bottom of those tie rods, we can, every 6 months now, we can pump some grease in there. These parts will last us for many years to come, and if they do fail, chances are we'll be able to have them replaced pretty easily. So that's pretty cool. Again, you know, this is pretty much, I mean, other than they just being a little bit different, you might as well say the same exact ones that you're going to find on good old Project Spirit. I mean, ironically enough, I don't think tie rod technology has really changed all that much over the years. They just change, you know, model to model. So that brings us to an excellent stopping point. Remember, folks, I know, you know, we have changed an awful lot dealing with our project car, you know, our project car, Project Lena. And of course, eventually we'll get back into Project Spirit, but we'll talk about how we can do that a whole lot quicker, and it's going to require you guys. But back to what our hero car in this video, Project Lena. I will tell y'all right now, remember, your project is one giant puzzle, okay? And in dealing with that giant puzzle, when selecting the pieces that go back into that giant puzzle, make sure you select the one that, one, is economical, and two, is serviceable for many years, and three, will fit the type of build that you're doing. So, that brings us to the spot where I get to remind all of you about the Teespring store. The Teespring store has all the Prince Magnum Channel's merchandise. Go over there, check it out. We're looking at putting all sorts of products up there, brand new. We are looking at that, and we've been looking at that for a good while. We're just now getting to the stage where we might actually be able to do that. I'm not 100% sure yet, but you know, I got a lot of wonderful folks that work behind the scenes helping the Prince Magnum Channel. Along with that, maybe you don't need merchandise, but you still want to help. Get on over to Patreon. You can become a member of the High Mileage Club for, you know, for the Prince Magnum Channel, and every, you know, for $1 a month, every dollar that you put in goes back into the project cars, and if enough of you are doing it, we can get Project Spirit, we can get all the stuff for Project Spirit, have her back on the road so dang quick, it'll be ripping shingles for the rooftops. Alright? But that does bring us to the point where I get to remind all of you as we close up Project Lena's Hood. And that is, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is, just do something with yourselves. Remember, idle hands and a creative mind go together like oil and water. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet, do something special for them today. And as always, for every last one of you out there, if no one out there has told you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you, and have a happy 24. Thank you.